Hi and welcome to TMG Movie Reviews. I'm Rick.
I'm Andrew.
And today we're going to be reviewing Batman Returns.
From 1992, once again directed by Tim Buton, with Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, and new arrivals Christopher Walken as Max Schreck, Danny DeVito as Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, and the beautiful Michelle Pfeiffer as Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman. Now, Batman Returns was initially turned down by Tim Buton, as he'd said, I don't want to do another Batman, I've shot my load on Batman, I've said what I have to say about the character, I don't know where else I can take it. So the hook for Tim was, you come in and you do your Batman. It doesn't have to be a fan Batman, it doesn't have to adhere to the Killing Joke or comics or TV or anything, you just do what you want to do. And that's what he did, and the film was not received particularly rapturously. McDonald's had a tie-in deal with Batman Returns, and they had designed mugs, Happy Meals, and then they saw the film, which if you've seen the film will know it's quite overtly sexual, there's some quite disturbing violence, there's overtones of feminism and somewhat masochism, and they were absolutely livid, so they pulled the time deal. Children were coming out of screenings, crying in tears at the things that they were seeing on screen, and it was not another hit critically, and commercially did not do quite as well as the Batman from '89. I personally, in the original review, I was very biased, and I said I don't want to talk about what's wrong with Batman, I want to talk about what's right with it. With Batman Returns, going back and watching it again, I became uncomfortably aware of a number of flaws that I didn't really see the first time. But Rick, what do you think?
Well,
going to the
I really like the film. I think it's you can easily just say, like you said, it's a Tim Burton film, and that's what he was told. He was told to make a Tim Burton film, and that was the hook that got him to pick it back up. It was also the hook that got Michael Keaton to come back as Batman, because he had no interest. This was his first ever sequel. So the thing that I thought going into it, I thought it's good. It is a really good film. It's by far a lot better than Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, but it's not up to Batman '89. It's just not at the same quality as Batman '89, and I think that's because it's not really a Batman story this time around. It's because you've got Penguin, Oswald Cobblepot, like you said. You've got Selina Kyle playing Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer, and that's the story. If anything, the main person in this film is Catwoman.
Yeah,
it's her origin story.
Yeah,
we see everything that happens to her, from getting thrown out the window to her becoming this Catwoman, to fighting crime to a degree, to then just going out and getting revenge on Shrek. Batman just seems to take a back seat. He's not in the movie as much, and I sort of understand Tim Burton says that the focus can't be too much on Batman because he's meant to be in the shadows, and I appreciate that, and I think I agree with it as well to a degree, but it is a Batman movie, and I just feel like maybe it's overdone with the villains, even though she's not a full villain, she's more like a tweener.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like Penguin's clearly the villain. He's got zero redeemable qualities whatsoever.
No, absolutely not.
He comes out looking like he's trying to find his parents, but really he's just trying to find the firstborn of every family so he can kill them.
Obviously, as revenge, because we assume from the beginning of the film that he's the firstborn son of his parents, and this is his revenge. What I think where it goes wrong, I remember, I don't know when you first saw this, but I remember when I first saw it, I would have been about 7 or 8, and my mum got it for me on video, and I was really excited because I'd seen the first Batman on TV and I loved it so much, and she put this on and I was just bored senseless. And I was bored because, as Rick says, it's not a Batman film, it's Tim Burton going, okay, I've got Shrek, I've got the Penguin, and I've got Catwoman, I'm going to take them in every single direction I can think. So you've got this feminist sort of hybrid of this revenge fantasy, you've got political machinations with Penguin wanting to become the mayor and Max Schreck using him to, in some plot that's never quite resolved, about draining Gotham of its power. I don't quite understand the plot there. And one of the other things that really gets me, and it was another critic that I was watching on YouTube named Oliver Harper who brought this up, is there's the sequence where Penguin takes control of the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Well, there's 2 problems with that. Number one, where does he get the plans for the Batmobile? We assume, does he have a contact in Wayne Industries? How does he know? Because obviously it's the Batmobile, Batman's not going to be taking it on Top Gear.
I doubt he got the information from Alfred.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you get to the point where they're wiring it up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, if there are any engineers watching, surely you'd need a great deal of expertise and experience to wire up to take the Batmobile to pieces, to wire it up, to wire up the cameras, and to wire up the tracking device that allows the Penguin to control it, but that's never explained. The other thing is, when Batman finally realises what's going on, he punches through the bottom of the car and pulls this little box off, and so he's back in control. Why is that? Why would she spend so much time wiring it up to have a little box on the bottom, pull the box off, and
that looks like it's just held on by a magnet.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there was another thing that Oliver brought up at the end when Bruce. Sorry if I'm going to spoilers, but this will contain spoilers. When Bruce takes off his mask,
it was in 1992.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't seen it by now, you're a bit behind. But yeah, when Bruce pulls his mask off, there's no black eye makeup.
You actually see rewatching it, because I did notice this, and you see no black eye makeup. If you cut to like a scene before and he's talking to her, and you see the black eye makeup full on in effect, and then it cuts to Michelle Pfeiffer for a second, then cuts back to Keaton, and you see that it's gone with him wearing the mask outfit, and it does sort of, it jumps out at you. You sort of like, where's that gone? And then he rips the mask off, and you're like, oh yeah, that's why it's missing.
I mean, I understand maybe Tim was thinking, right, dramatically, he's doing this big scene, he's confessing, look, I'm you, we're together, we're the same thing. And he didn't think it would look very dramatically effective to have a man with black eyes, but it does stand out. It's just a detail that you think, well, Keaton's a good enough actor that he could still act that scene and still have the eye makeup.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you think about the villains? Do you think they stand up as good as, Heath Ledger as the Joker, or Tom Hardy's Bane, or Jack as the Joker? Where do you think they stand?
No, they're not as good as the Joker, because you're not going to get a better villain than the Joker for Batman.
No, absolutely not.
I think Catwoman's a well-rounded sort of villain, but also sort of anti-hero. So like I said, she's a tweener. She's by the end of the film, she's sort of standing up in the bat signal. It's like it's her movie.
Yeah,
but the Penguin as a villain, Danny DeVito's a perfect choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Penguin. If anyone's going to play Penguin, it's got to be Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Max Schreck's character is just sort of there. He's not really. He's not in the comics. He's only created for this role. This is the only version of Max Schreck we ever see, and it's just sort of Tim Burton wanted Christopher Walken in the film. So
he wrote in this part. Yeah, and I think the original story, from what I've read, was that it was going to be Penguin and Batman. Beg your pardon, Penguin and Catwoman looking for hidden treasure, and Tim Burton just poo-pooed that idea and said, "Well, I want to make it a bit more grown up." So that's why he brought in Daniel Waters, who wrote Hudson Hawk and also written Heathers, to come up with this political sort of sexual storyline. And I think that's what bored me as a kid, that I didn't understand this whole thing about duality and about masks and about, because what Tim Burton's trying to say is, I'm making a film about people who cannot function in the real world, so they wear these animal totems and act out their fantasies. But considering how good Batman was, it's a bit of a disappointment.
See, that aspect doesn't bother me as much. I mean, if it was a choice between having them that sort of damage that they have to wear masks in public to, it was going to be a treasure hunt.
Yeah, picture them looking for hidden
Pirates
treasure.
of the Caribbean.
Absolutely.
I have zero interest in that for a Batman movie. But, I mean, what would you give the movie out of 5 overall?
This is a funny thing. When I first saw it as a kid, did you see it when you were a little kid when it first came out? Did you like it at the time?
Yeah, I remember I was all sort of liking it. It's more as I've grown up and watched it that I actually felt like it's good. It's just not as good.
Yeah, I hated it as a kid. I saw it as an adult, and I sort of like it. I love the ending. I think the ending is wonderful. Danny Elfman's music, when Penguin emerges from the water. That's another thing, actually. Another point while we're on this review. There is a brilliant line, I have to say, where Penguin says, "You're just jealous because I'm a genuine freak and you have to wear a mask."
Yeah.
And that is one of the best lines. I think that basically sums up the entire Batman story, really. But there's a moment where Penguin wants to activate his penguins. Do you remember? And
I hated that scene.
Batman's got the detonator, but the Penguin's like, "Oh, my babies!" and gets the detonator. I don't understand I don't understand that scene. Does he want the detonator because he doesn't want to activate the penguins, or he just doesn't want Batman to activate the penguins? I don't understand.
He wants them to activate them in a certain area, whereas he sent them, but Batman scrambles the signal and they start to go in the wrong direction, and then they're just going to blow up for no reason. But the thing, I hated that scene. I just thought, compared to the first one, I mean, yeah, you had some crazy things that the Joker did, but to have penguins with rockets strapped to the back, walking around the streets, and this is what Batman's trying to... I hated it. If there was one scene that you could just take out of it, it would be that.
That's the Vicky Vale scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't. I always wondered, looking back at it, there was that, and there was, what does he want? But I understand now. Obviously, he wants to get the penguins away from him. But I do like the ending with the music and Batman searching for Catwoman in the wreckage, and suddenly the penguin emerges, and they then, when the penguin does die, the penguins drag him into the water, which I think is a nice moment. But there aren't enough nice moments. It's a film that it's a bit slapdash. It doesn't really tell a good, solid Batman story. It's a Tim Burton film. It just happens to have Batman in. So I'd give it. It was initially a 1 star, but that was a long time ago. But I'd give it a 3. I have to say.
Yeah, well, I'm more of a fan. I think, like I said, if you watch this and compare it to Batman 1, it's not as good. Watch this and compare it to Batman and Forever and Batman and Robin, and it's a masterpiece.
It absolutely is.
So I'm going to give it a 4. I'm not going to give it as high a mark as I gave Batman, but it's still a good film and still worth watching. If you're a Batman fan, definitely.
Yeah, do see it. Don't not see it, because it is interesting to see